is like super small grain size that she needs. My other teacher that's doing it is a way bigger picture, and we're making a lot more progress. So I'm just being like, depending on their independent level, which we know anyway with any teacher, some are making a lot of progress where this teacher like needs a lot of support, and I need to meet with her weekly. So I just like moving forward, I think that it may be hard to determine what the appropriate amount of time would be needed to support, and I need to meet with her weekly. So I just like moving forward, I think that any teacher may be making a lot of progress.
I don't.
Is that the, oh, yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
But I had a lot of that experience just in the project with the NEA teachers and with Sarah Farkas, who just stands out all by herself in her own category. And it's that, it is the biggest impact you see is time. You know, Sarah, 3 emails from her yesterday. Look where we are in the school year. She gets enormous amounts of time, 90 minutes out of whack. You know, I've met with this woman. We have worked. And, you know, it's very fundamental. Now she's in a tough spot. She's a teacher who goes from school to school, classroom to classroom, and nobody gives her any respect. But my experienced teacher, as with you, is that we're starting here and we're really doing what I did with another experienced teacher at the start of the year, which is the kind of dream category, a dream thing that you would like to do, but you've never been able to do. And so it's really fine refinement to teaching.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the hard part. I know we've talked about this in some of my individual meetings this week, is like with instructional design, there may not be a standard process in terms of like how frequently you meet, and it's not necessarily like 2 weeks in between every step. And I was talking to Jenna, and she was saying like, and I know James, you guys have experiences in design too, where like some teachers in between meetings might be working on like 3 different things simultaneously. And so how can we get like the tool to be able to capture a teacher who's not just working on like one small strategy, they're working on like a bunch of different elements, and thinking about how we can capture that.
I wish we had a tool that was more like pathways as opposed to rigid drop-down menus, because that's what we're doing. We're mapping paths with these teachers, and I'm not suggesting that we don't try to create some kind of standardization, but we're also personalized PD. But you know, if you said to me, Cheryl, you're going to get 5 brand new teacher to teaching teachers, you pretty much know what the pathway is going to be. I'm going to put them on the, you know, high expectations in a standards-based classroom pathway. I might not call it that, I might not tell them that, but that's where we're going to go, unless there's some extraordinary person and they have, you know, a gift for teaching. So, I mean, that would be a pathway. Well, someone like Michelle Shea, you know, we're taking a pathway into refining teaching. We're refining elements of teaching. We're moving further down the continuum. And so I think, you know, to me, when I look at that, you know, I appreciate that we interact with a device that captures what we do, and that's part of the problem is that it's not as organic. But I still think the best approach to this would be to do pathways, and then we might actually want to consider, because you know when people buy this product, they're inside, they're thinking of something. And if they're buying it for new teachers, they're thinking of something quite different than if they were buying it for a group of people like Michelle Shea. You know, and I don't, you know, we got a mix of that this year, but I suspect we're going to see buckets that are either or as well. You know, so it almost wonders. So if somebody comes to you and wants to buy, you know, really instructional design coaching, they're probably dealing with teachers with high need, you know, like the Franklin City people or brand new teachers, right? So I just wonder if maybe that's a different pathway than if somebody that I'm working with who's got experience wants to refine their teaching.
I was going to say, so my situation started out, I think, pretty promising, and then changed quite significantly. So I had 3 teachers who were all engaging in the pilot, or had signed up to anyway. And it was exciting because each of the 3 of them had picked each of the 3 categories. So I was like, oh, this is great, right? Yeah. I'm going to end up talking about the one teacher who, you know, who's still in it. But one of them just never, like, she would not book. booked and was a no-show, and then finally booked, and I had my check-in with Jenna, and it was like, it's like this, no, if she hasn't done it yet, just end it, you know. So that was the person who was going to be working on assessment, which is interesting though, because the person who I will talk about started out with instructional design, but then we had a lot of conversation about assessment because they're so linked. But the other person, I've been making a lot of progress with Jesse, and he was like one of my rock star teachers all year. And then he contacted me and was just like, yeah, I decided to resign from teaching, and I don't feel right continuing with this pilot if I'm not going to be teaching next year. So he's out. Although I did feel like I learned some things from him. I feel like the person I've learned most from is Daria Ives. She's in Hawaii and she teaches math. And so she started out with, like I said, she was doing her focus was on. She was on data-driven planning. So that actually makes sense as far as the assessment focus. The success indicator was teacher creates lesson outcomes that build momentum and movement toward understanding and mastery while fostering high leverage transferable skills. And so what was interesting was that at this point in the year, she was in the midst of trying to really wrap up a math unit. And so when we were talking a bit, like she was already using Kahoot, we talked about, exit tickets and what other ways of collecting data might be helpful because she wasn't getting all she wanted from Kahoot. And we got to a really interesting point where she was about to switch to another math concept. And so I was like, okay, so what are we gonna do here? Like based on what this Kahoot is telling you, there are some things that your students need to improve on. And she said that basically the things that were more conceptual were the things that they did well on. The things that involved them having to memorize, they didn't do well on. So I was like, okay, so that's important to know. So moving forward, now she's switching to some other math content. How are you going to bring this learning onto your next piece? And she was like, I never really thought about that because I'm like, you could think about it a couple of ways. Either you could continue this math concept until you feel like they've worked on this, or you can take the learnings into the next math concept. And so we had a really good conversation about that. So we've had 3 meetings, and we have our last one will be coming up on the 17th. And so I think it's been really helpful because she's very, very, very thoughtful. She's one of the teachers who's helped me to really appreciate wait time because sometimes I'm like, she's mad. She wasn't mad, she was really thinking.
Yeah.
And she really takes the time to be really thoughtful, which was really great. So I feel like I've learned quite a bit from her.
What did you send after she did the Kahoot and she came back to you with those learnings and that feedback? What did you send her next as a strategy?
So we go to my last meeting. I don't think I actually by the 3rd meeting, I don't think I sent her anything at that point because I think what shifted for her was how she was going to use. Well, actually, no, I can't say that because so I asked her when she talked about the fact that they needed to get better with their memorization. I did send her resources about an article that includes some memorization strategies. So that's what I sent to her. Because I asked her, I said, have you worked on mnemonic devices or anything like that? And she thought back and she was like, actually, no, I haven't been doing that with them. And so she wanted to work on that a bit as she moved on to the next math content. So it was about effective memorization strategies.
Was she using Kahoot before this
Yes.
instruction design?
Yes.
Did she learn about it from you in the first place?
No, she was
that
already she was already doing that. And at the same time, I think she was really intrigued at thinking about not always wanting to do Kahoot. So she was thinking about trying exit tickets or she said, I really haven't talked because we started out in our first conversation about students will be able to. She's like, I've lost that. We don't often focus on what I want them to be able to do at the end of it. So she started thinking about that, and she said that she had initially, at the beginning of the year, had created these the books where they would put their ICANN statements, so they would know what they were shooting for. And she was like, I need to bring that back. So there were several things that came out of the conversation.
That's huge.
Yeah.
If you got her to see that she forgot to set her focus.
Yeah.
You can't get to where you're going unless you have a map.
Right.
And it's new, undiscovered country for the students. They deserve a map.
Right. And so it was really because she's so, I think I like working with her because she's so open and just really willing to be vulnerable. She's like, I haven't been doing that. And she gets all excited. She's like, I need to do it again. So it's just really encouraging.
What year?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Is it early career?
If she's
I think she's
5,
pretty-
she has to be 5.
Yeah,
Years or
she's
less.
pretty early. I think probably around 3, yeah, 3.
So I guess that kind of leads to my kind of question about strategies and the resources that you guys have been sending to teachers, and then also in thinking about, like, if you think about the succession of strategies that you've been sending to them, or resources, and that could be like an article, a website link, an ed tech tool, like, how big is the grain size with which you've been sending those, A? And the second question is, if you think about that succession of resources and or strategies, which we need to define more clearly, how can you imagine that translating to the tool, like to the browser? Like, how can you imagine that? I know James has some great ideas on that I would love for him to share, but like, how do you envision that? So first, grain size, and then the second piece is like product. James has some great ideas on.
We discuss the big reasons why, like they need to know where they're going. I mean, even with a pro, I give them very small grade size specifics because you can only do one thing at a time. I mean, I'll give them the context. We'll have that discussion. But then it always comes down to, this is something that you could do. And it's very specific. And then it might then also have those intended things like, and if your students aren't used to having protocols, you better put those in place before you do this, blah, blah, blah. But I think it has to be small grain size.
I think it's almost like an introduction. Like I sent in the teaching panel video showing isoslips in action, and the teacher was like, that was so helpful for me to see like how a teacher is actually doing that. But that was like an initial strategy that we're gonna have to kind of break down, because there's no way she can now take that strategy and then be able to do it on her own. So then it's kind of breaking it down and just seeing like, here are some examples of exit tickets, or let's look at your curriculum and find some exit tickets that are worthy. And then from there, it's kind of iterating on exit tickets in order for her to use those exit tickets for data. So like, I think that a strategy is gonna be probably in place for a few loops, and you might be adding in something that's new. But I think always, like Cheryl's saying, we need such small grain sizes that with the strategies, I think sometimes the strategies are almost like a bigger picture, and then we have to break that down.
Val's got a.
Always, like Cheryl's saying, we need such small grain sizes that with the strategies, I think sometimes the strategies are almost like a bigger picture, and then we have to break that down.
Val's got a.
Always, like Cheryl's saying, we need such small grain sizes that with the strategies, I think sometimes the strategies are almost like a bigger picture, and then we have to break